the channel, and today we have 10 major announcements and details that were revealed today about Tears of the Kingdom. Now, if you weren't aware, today was actually the embargo for a bunch of media outlets who were actually invited to a little play test of Tears of the Kingdom. I believe they got to play 90 minutes of Tears of the Kingdom. And yeah, it was basically a demo that media was invited. And you know what? I'm not famous enough to be invited, but what I did was I read all the articles, I watched all the videos, and I came up with this neat and concise list of 10 major points that you guys should definitely know of if you didn't check out those videos yet. Now, I am using IGN and Nintendo Life's footage and information, so definitely check them out in the description. I will link them, of course. And yeah, there's a spoiler warning on here. Some major things got revealed. Nothing story-wise. This is basically all gameplay, so don't worry too much about all the story little details. Okay, let's get to the first one. And this one is exciting for me and something that we kind of knew already, but this is now 100% confirmed. And that is Koroks are coming back in Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, they're coming back. We don't know how many there are, but judging by some of the impressions, especially Nintendo Life's impressions, there seems to be a ton. And actually, some Korok little puzzles give you multiple Koroks. They give you more than one. So my guess is there's probably going to be more than 900, if you can believe that. Now, these Koroks, the puzzles anyway, they seem pretty basic. We have footage of one where you kind of light some leaves on fire and then a rock is revealed. You lift up the rock, you get the Korok. We all played Breath of the Wild, but they're pretty similar to that. But there is a more extensive Korok quest that we kind of saw in one of the trailers. There's that famous Korok with the backpack, and it actually turns out that that's a quest where you have to reunite that Korok with another Korok, and you get multiple Koroks from that. So Koroks have been confirmed. There's apparently a ton of them, and the puzzles can range from easy to very involved and difficult. Number 2 is something that I wasn't preparing for, and that is throwable items. This is pretty huge. This is a pretty huge gameplay bit here. Now, this footage is from Nintendo Life, and you can see Link is picking up the bomb flowers and throwing them like your traditional Legend of Zelda bombs. I think this is really interesting, and I think a lot of players are going to have fun with this. Now, they did say that any item you pick up can be thrown, which is interesting. I'm interested to see if you can throw like jellies and they would freeze the enemies, or if you can throw just rocks to kind of trick the enemies and bring them to certain areas. But the fact that you can throw any single item is very, very cool, meaning that you don't need arrows to necessarily fuse things, or you don't need swords to fuse different items. We don't really know a ton, but we do have this footage of, again, throwing the bomb, you know, like a traditional Zelda game. So that's very interesting and something that I didn't think of. So any item is throwable. Number 3, and I really didn't think of this one either, but this makes a ton of sense. Elemental arrows are gone. Yeah. That's pretty major if you are coming from Breath of the Wild, because I don't know about you, but that's pretty much all I use. The flame arrows, the electric arrow, or the shock arrows, the ice arrows, those seem to be gone. Now, I'm not sure if this is 100% confirmed, but Nintendo Life said that they are gone, and it does kind of make sense because it's all about fusing. It's all about making your own weapons and combinations. So the idea of elemental arrows being gone does make sense. Now, this is not 100% confirmed. Like I said before, you may be able to go into a town and buy your traditional elemental arrows that may do more damage or something. But from this 90-minute gameplay that they were able to play, it seems elemental arrows are gone in favor of the fusion combinations. Now, my first thoughts on this, I do kind of like that. I kind of like that we have to forage and gather our ingredients to make more powerful weapons. But it was pretty convenient to have like an all-in-one elemental arrow. I know that sometimes, just looking at the footage, it kind of does look cumbersome to fuse everything that you want to use, especially arrows. So we're not ruling this out 100%, but they did say that they are gone. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Number 4, we got a bunch of new fusions that were revealed in the gameplay footage. Now, I did highlight some of my favorites because admittedly there's like a bunch that were shown. The first one that I want to highlight is fusing a key swing with an arrow. Now, in Nintendo Live's gameplay footage, there was basically a situation where they were trying to shoot a bokoblin with an arrow, and they couldn't quite reach the bokoblin. Now, we have seen in other gameplay footage that you can attach a eyeball and create sort of a homing arrow. But in this footage, they attached a key swing to an arrow, letting the arrow fly further. I really love this. I love the fact that not only can you fuse any item, but the items make sense. Key swings, they can bring the arrow further. I thought that was really cool. There's another combination that was shown called the Moto Bud. Now, this is a forageable item, but if you combine it with an arrow and shoot an enemy, the enemy will actually be confused and start attacking other enemies. So you can kind of shoot this on all sorts of enemies, and they can actually fight with you for what looks like a temporary amount of time. Now, the interesting thing about this is that in some of the footage, they shot the Moto Bud arrow at the giant bokoblin boss, and it actually, for a second, you can see it starts attacking other enemies. So I don't know if this is limited based on the level of the enemy or, how tough it is to beat. I don't know if you could necessarily use this on a giant boss, but the Moto Bud seems to be an item that I'm going to be using. Definitely, will create some funny moments. Next up, we saw a lot of footage of the bomb flower arrow, which seems to be taking the place of the traditional bomb arrow. It's pretty self-explanatory. You combine it with an arrow and it creates an explosion. There's also another cool fusion with the gems and the arrow. So we're talking sapphire, topaz, and what they actually do is if you combine them with the arrow and shoot them, they create a giant elemental explosion, which I think is very cool. But the more that I think about it, am I really going to use one of these gems instead of just selling them for money? So I don't know how that's going to go, but the explosion does seem pretty big. We also saw the Choo Choo Jelly arrows, which of course we saw in the gameplay already. Those create your more traditional elemental arrows. We also saw in footage that you can combine that giant spiked ball with a stick or a sword and create a spiked bat. And then we saw more footage of the rocket fused with the shield, basically creating a DIY version of Rivali's Gale. And I think that one will be used heavily. Number 5 is improved cooking, and thanks to IGN's footage, we now have some new details about the improved cooking in Tears of the Kingdom. Now, the cooking in Breath of the Wild was okay, it was fine, but now the changes include recipe cards. So basically, once you make your recipe, it is then added to your recipe book, and you can look back at those recipe cards to recreate the meal and to learn different details and information about what the meal does. Now, I don't know how helpful this will be, and I don't know how much I will use this feature, but it's nice to know that you can kind of catalog your recipes and recreate them if you have the correct materials. Number 6 is new information on Zonai Devices. And again, thanks to IGN, we now have some more information on that. So Zonai Devices include the different fans and steering wheels that help you fuse onto your vehicles and flying machines. Now, these in the footage were shown to come out of a capsule machine that you can find in the world in Tears of the Kingdom. That was pretty comical just to see a giant capsule machine, but these devices will be very, very important. Again, these include the fans and things like that, and you will be using a ton of these to traverse the Sky Islands especially. So look out for those giant capsule machines to get your Zonai devices. Number 7 is all of the footage of the Ultra Hand powers. Now, the Ultra Hand seems very overpowered in my opinion, but it does, sort of add to the game, obviously. But it was revealed in multiple people's playtests that the Ultra Hand can grab onto any item in the game. I don't know if I'm the last to know this, but the fact that you can grab any item in the game, similar to Magnesis in Breath of the Wild, is pretty staggering. Now, before, of course, you can only grab metal items with Magnesis, or you can only stasis certain things, but the Ultra Hand, you can literally grab anything, from the explosive barrels, to metal objects, to wooden objects. You can grab anything, which is going to create those moments of fusing and things like that. So the Ultra Hand, I don't know, we learned, I guess, that it's limitless, which is both exciting and pretty scary to think about. Number 8 is really, really cool, and I'm glad to see this quality of life change, and that is a brand new inventory feature. Now, as you can see in Nintendo Life's footage, once you go to a chest and pick up an item, usually in Breath of the Wild, it would say your inventory is full, and the item would go back in the chest. Well, with this new feature in Tears of the Kingdom, once you open a chest and it says your inventory is full, it now brings up a sub-menu where you can drop an item or weapon to make room for this new item. This is huge if you've played Breath of the Wild. This new feature is huge because we have to go through a bunch less hoops to kind of drop our item and pick up this new one. I think this is a great quality of life improvement. And yeah, this is going to be an underrated feature that I think everyone is going to use. Number 9 is something that we've seen in Breath of the Wild, but it is confirmed to be added to the base game, and that is the Travel Medallion. Now, before, this was a DLC item for Breath of the Wild, and basically what you could do is you could place a Travel Medallion in one spot and then use another Travel Medallion to go back to the original spot. Now, this is added into the base game, or at least was there in the 90-minute playtest. This is huge because I feel like a lot of us are going to be doing a bunch of experimenting where we might be creating flying machines on Sky Islands to get to the next Sky Island. And if that fails, we'll fall all the way to the base floor of the game and we'll have to get all the way back up to the Sky Island. With these travel medallions, it kind of encourages testing of our own and, encourages us to fail, basically, because, what's the worst that's going to happen? We go back to the original travel medallion. This is a feature I'm glad is in the base game. It's almost a needed feature because of the Sky Islands. If you get attacked by an enemy or something, you fall all the way down and it's going to be a pain to get back up, especially if you were working on a quest or a Korok or something. So the travel medallion is confirmed to be in the base game, which is a big improvement. Number 10, and hold your breath, everyone, is the performance of Tears of the Kingdom. Now, before I say this, a caveat here. This is the version that's not available yet. This is not the launch version. It will be getting updates, but many outlets, including Nintendo Life, have reported that the performance was so-so. Now, it performed pretty well from what I heard, but there was points in it, mainly using the Ultra Hand, that the game chugged a little bit. Now, this has been a fear of mine from the beginning. Tears of the Kingdom is a huge game. We're playing it on very old hardware, and I kind of knew that this was going to happen, but like I said, I can't harp on this too much because this version of the game is not the version that we will be playing. Our version will definitely be 1.01, and we don't even know if this is 1.0 footage yet. So the performance that they have seen has varied depending on what they're doing, but they have said that the Ultra Hand ability has been causing some of this chugging of the game. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I do think that there will be points in this game where the performance, is hindered in some way. There's a lot going on the screen. It's a massive game. There's a lot of mechanics and physics going on. It's bound to happen, but it's interesting that even in this 90-minute playtest, they have complained about some minor performance issues. So there you go. Those are my 10 main takeaways from reading some of these articles and watching some of these first look previews. Again, I will link IGN and Nintendo Life's videos in my description if you want to check them out in its entirety. I am very excited for Tears of the Kingdom. I think all 10 of these, besides the performance, are all positive and super awesome, and I'm so excited to play. Make sure to subscribe for more Tears of the Kingdom content. I will be unboxing the Tears of the Kingdom Special Edition this Friday. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace out, everyone.